Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS and betting preview for this week's BMW Championship. Gonna get you guys ready for all of your exposure. But first off, a look at this brand new renovated golf course, give you guys an idea of exactly how it's gonna play, and then afterwards we're gonna go through some of my exposure, both from the fantasy and the betting side of things, give you guys an idea of exactly where I'm going. So a lot to go through here. It's not waste any time at all. Let's start off with first off, look at the golf course and exactly how it should play here in 2025. I do have a full course breakdown already up on my channel, which you guys can check out down below. There's a link in the description. But this golf course played very distance heavy in 2021, and although they made some changes to make it more difficult this time around, now it's a 7,600 yard par 70, so I think distance is still going to matter. So if you guys want to see exactly all the changes, they narrowed the fairways, they made the rough longer, every single green is going to be brand new. So I'm not sure if course history should be at the main part of your model this week, because it's just going to be so much different in 2025, but we do have some sense for how it's going to play from the ball striking angle, as they only added about 50 yards to the golf course, and while the par might be different on some holes, you had two par 5s changed to par 4s, the shots required are essentially the exact same. So the approach buckets are going to be a lot longer than what we typically see. A lot of the par 70s we've been playing recently have been like 71, 7,200 yards. This has an extra 400 yards to it, so a lot of shots from 150 and out. You also don't want to ignore your approach form heading in either. That is, regardless of the golf course, going to be important, so especially at a newer track like this. And you know, we have this modeling. We're going to mention a few things that I'm emphasizing, but keep in mind that at these newer courses, I don't use my modeling nearly as much as a course that we see every single year. You're off the tee, I am skewing it towards the distance this week. That's what we had in 2021, and with the length of the course, I think that's pretty reasonable. We do have bent grass greens. You also want to look at your putting form heading in. Worth noting that in 2021, a lot of your top end finishers went nuclear batshit low with the putter, so that could be something to keep an eye on. I do think that if it's going to be firmer and faster, they added a sub air to the golf course. It should be a little bit crunchier this time, and along with the fact that they renovated it to make it more difficult, you should be looking at that. And then with your comp courses, I don't feel the greatest about these. In fact, the Memorial is really the only one I'm weighing super heavily here, but Quail Hollow, Innisbrook, you could also throw in on top of that. The reason why Memorial is maybe a little bit better is I think the difficulty, you know, it's gonna be harder than what you have this week, but still I think it's closer to what you had to the Memorial rather than the 2021 that was won at minus 27 here. And then these other courses, it's more so the ball striking that I'm looking at. I mean, the agronomy is different at Quail Hollow. South Florida course, way different dirt than what we have in Maryland, but the same kind of shots required. They're tight courses, they're tree lined in most cases, and especially with these top two, you've got 3 to 4 inch rough. So overall, we're looking for a bomber that can really get everything done, and I wouldn't live and die by the modeling this week. This is always something we start with to get an idea of how the golf course is going to play, but it's tough to say anytime we have a renovation like this. And with that being said, let's go through some of my exposure this week. So first core play, first outright I took was Ludvig Aberg at $10,200, and I bet him to win at 25 to 1. And off the tee heavy courses, tracks where being long and straight is rewarded are the kind of tracks that I play Aberg at. And if you take a look at the last 24 rounds, he's starting to drive the ball like what we're used to seeing. In fact, over that 12 round sample size, gaining about a half a stroke per round could be a little bit more accurate. That's when you get him closer to a stroke gained per round, but distance wise clears just about everyone that's priced around him. And the thing I'll note about the pricing this week, and I think it'll have a tangible impact on the ownership, is that it feels like these guys are way too expensive. I mean, we don't have a 5K range, even though this is only a 50 player field. We also have really top heavy pricing, in my opinion. Not that many guys in the 6K range, at least compared to what we normally see on a slate like this, which means that your Justin Thomas's, Aberg, Cantlay, even Cam Young's, you know, might see some ownership on a Cantlay, given that he won here in 2021, but some of these other guys might be 10, maybe even sub 10% owned in a few different cases. And maybe that's wishful thinking on an Aberg because his form has been pretty solid. He's number 3 with my Caves Valley course fit, just consistently, whether it's the last 12 rounds or even the last 24 measured rounds, he's got one of the best stat profiles of anyone in the field. In fact, his off the tee is even better over the last 24 round sample size, gaining about 3/4 of a stroke per round on approach. And at a newer course, I think we know the off the tee is going to be a big thing this week because of how long it is and how long that rough is going to be. But the rest of the game, I think, is way up in the air. Like, it could be an around the green course, it could be a putting week for all we know. But at most courses, I mean, if we just generalize the PGA Tour and try and break it down, approach play is always number one. It's always number one in my modeling. It should be number one in pretty much every stat model that's out there. And Aberg's had some of the best iron play in this range. In fact, maybe the best iron play of anyone in this range. A Cantlay slightly outshines him, but he's also the better off the tee player between an Aberg and a Cantlay. So yeah, give me him at 25-1, and hopefully, I think 10% ownership's probably wishful thinking, but maybe in that 12 to 15% range, I would be really glad, ecstatic to get like 3-4x leverage there. Next up, we got ourselves Viktor Hovland at $9,200. This is a riskier play, but I like his upside at this kind of track, and he's had a lot of success at driver-heavy courses in the playoffs. So at 33-1, I bet him for an outright bet. I think at $9,200, he's also a very fair price tag. Worth noting, guys, that Sepp Straka did just withdraw from this event, so keep that in mind with the process. He's got some sort of a private family matter going on, so prayers out to him. Hopefully everything's okay over there. But if he makes it to the Tour Championship, said he plans on playing next week. Hovland, though, I was going to look at Sepp as a play. I played him last week. He's another accurate guy off the tee that we could use here. But Hovland is long and accurate off the tee. And the thing with Hovland is that he's been gaining accuracy over his last 4 events, but he's lost strokes off the tee. What that tells us is that he's hitting a lot more water balls than he should. And though there's a little bit of aquatic penalty areas around this golf course, there's not nearly as much as what he's been playing on for the last month. So and normally that's the issue, is he can't hit enough fairways, his accuracy's below average. That has not been the problem for him, though. So it's just been the big mistakes that are really clouding those shots gained off the tee metrics. And if this is going to be an off the tee heavy course where accuracy and distance is rewarded, well, if he's hitting those fairways again like he has for the last 4 or 5 starts, that is going to be massive at this BMW Championship. And if we take a look at the iron play, it has been spot in line for Hovland. In fact, it is the best other than Hideki Matsuyama over his last 24 rounds of players in this portion of the board. He's gaining about 1.04 shots gained approach per round. And then even though he hasn't played his best lately, like he's, had some medium to even like bottom of the board finishes, he's still gaining about 0.7 shots gained approach per round. So the off the tee does dip into the negative, which is that concern that I was going through. And I had to do a real big deep dive on the accuracy, see exactly how it's happened over the last few weeks. Avoid the big mistakes, and he'll go well into the positive with the shots gained ball striking. And the putting's been pretty decent as well. So I think he's a sleeping giant, just somebody that has made far too many bogeys and double bogeys over his last few events to really get into contention. But birdie or better wise, aggression wise, DraftKings scoring wise, he's doing all the things that we're hoping for from a player. And before we go through our 2 value plays towards the bottom, do want to remind you where you can find these spreadsheets for yourself. On there, I've got all my projections, my entire player pool, every bet that I get to, as well as all the different research tools that you see throughout these videos, completely uncensored on my Patreon page. So make sure to check it out over there for every single piece of exposure that I'm getting to, as well as to download these for your own purposes. We got recent form, event history, the shots gained metrics that I've already shown you, and of course the custom model weightings towards the right side of this tab. So make sure to check that all out if you guys haven't already. Let's go through our last 2 plays. So we got Robbie Mack up first at 66-1. Crazy number from the outright perspective. I thought it was disrespectful, and I play him at off the tee heavy courses. He's long and he's accurate off the tee. Does that seem like a trend at this point? It's not going to let up with our last play either, but at $8,100, I think that's a very fair price tag given, the form has fallen off a little bit over the last 12 measured rounds, but this guy's been chalk, dozens of times this year. He's been one of the most popular players, it feels like, for the entire season, and it's for good reason. His ball striking has been there most of the time, and even though the last 24 round sample sizes aren't as impressive as what it was earlier this year, he was getting a stroke to a stroke and a half per round. I remember that sample size. I remember that baseline that he was showing us earlier this year, and although maybe it's the Scottish pressure of playing in front of his home crowds, then the Open Championship the week after really didn't go his way either. A few of those events that were kind of nasty towards the weekend, he'd made the cut and then he kind of bled away strokes when it didn't matter, or I think going to keep people off of one of the best plays in this entire field. And though I love Ricky this week too, I'll probably be playing him in a few lineups. His shots gained off the tee have been amazing. He's gaining like 0.7 strokes off the tee over his last 12 rounds. Like, he's the better off the tee player recently. Long term, it's not even a competition between these 2 players. Robbie Mack is like by far the best off the tee player at this portion of the board. You can make an argument that Akshay, when he's on his game, can be close to that, maybe a Corey Connors as well. But in terms of total driving, accuracy, and distance, this is the player that you want. You take him at difficult courses, places where you have to grind it out a bit. And I think now that it's gone from a par 72 to a par 70, now that they've tried to, ramp up the difficulty in a few other different ways as well, that is playing directly into his skill set. So I'll play him at 66 to 1 to win. Again, I thought just a completely disrespectful number there. And then also in DFS, because of some of the sketchier form, like it's not like he's coming in gaining a stroke per round ball striking. If he was, it'd probably be 20-25% owned. Now he might be closer to that 10% mark, which for an $8,100 golfer could be a pretty good spot to get some leverage to. And then lastly, we've got Maverick McNealy at $7,500. He's also a player that's been really striping it off the tee lately, and I took him to win at 55 to 1. So, a little bit of a sprinkle there. I think he's an even better DFS play, but if he's 55 to 1, he's only $7,500. This is a clear misprice because everyone else in this range is like 70, 80, even 100 to 1 to win this event, and Maverick McNealy has like double their win equity. So I do think that some people are going to be using him in their lineups because of that, but I think that's well warranted. Like there's a lot of value involved with taking somebody with that much more win equity. And if you go to the last 12 measured rounds, you'll see exactly why he's been playing well. He's gaining 0.65 shots gained off the tee per round. That is really carrying his game. And if there's one aspect that I'm personally leaning into, and it's a calculated gamble, we don't know exactly how it's going to play ahead of time, but the ball striking test is almost the exact same as what it was before. Distance was like everything in 2021. I mean, that leaderboard, if you took a look at the top 5, top 10, it's like literally all bombers, except for maybe one, maybe 2 exceptions in that top 15. That's why a player like McNealy that's long and straight, he's been gaining accuracy over his last month. He's also been gaining a whole bunch of distance as well. That's why he's gaining close to 0.7 strokes per round, is I think a perfect course fit for this kind of track. And he's a decent bent grass putter as well. He's, gaining about the same amount of strokes as he is over his last 24, but he's been putting well, so that's okay to see. And even over that 24 round sample size, he's still gaining 0.6 strokes per round off the tee. So you can tell that trend that I'm trying to lean into there. And on a week like this, I'm looking for upside as well. Like I'm going to be playing Scotty in lineups. I don't really have to tell you that in this core plays video for you guys to know that. I play Scotty almost every single time that he tees it up. Not so much on Showdown, but for main slates, you're hardly ever going to see me fading him. The more interesting plays and the ones that I chose to go through on here are the high upside boom bust options, the ones that can make or break your lineups, the ones that I'm personally looking to get to in large field GPPs that also have a chance to potentially cash that outright for us. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the DFS and betting preview. Go ahead, smash that like button if you haven't already, and also comment down below who you've got winning in this event for a chance to earn a free month of those Patreon projections. If you guys are the first one to guess the winner, you will get that free access. The only caveat on it is that they need to be at least 20 to 1 to win this thing. So no Scotty Scheffler, a few of those other elite tier guys towards the top you won't be able to take, but as long as they're at least 20 to 1 on one of those major books, you'll be okay to use them in that contest. So claim your player before anyone else goes ahead and steals them from you. Best of luck with everything that you guys are going with. I hope to see your names towards the top end of those GPPs. Let's cash out in an outright bet. That'd be pretty sweet as well. I see you guys for the live streams on Wednesday too.